that, keep reading. Verse 4. The children of Joseph were the two tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they gave no part to the Levites in the land except cities to dwell in, with the common lands for their livestock and their property. So the Levites got no land, and there's coming a lesson eventually when we'll talk about the Levites in their Levitical cities. That's over in chapter 21, 22. As the Lord had commanded Moses, so the children of did, and they divided the land. Then the children of Judah. So we start in verse 6 with the children of Judah coming. This, if I can give you some logistics, they're in Shiloh. They're before the tabernacle. They're at the gate or the entrance of the tabernacle. You have Eleazar the high priest. You have Joshua, the replacement of Moses. And then you have all the heads, not every single person, but all the heads of these tribes. And they gather together and they see how the lot falls. We'll pick that up next week. See how the lot falls and what land they're going to get. So Joshua steps forward, Caleb. Caleb steps forward in verse 6. And Caleb the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me at Kadesh Barnea." He's talking to Joshua. And he says, "I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart." Let every word count when you're studying Scripture, and that word counts. As it was in my heart. Slide number 10, please. As it was in my heart. Joshua, I'm going to say that 100 times tonight. Caleb, it's like Joshua and Caleb. You can't say it without saying both of them. Caleb, it was in his heart. When Caleb spoke over in Numbers chapter 13, this is what he's telling us. He said, when I told those people, when I quietened them and I said, look, we can do this. The Lord is on our side. We can do this. I spoke what was in my heart. Why was Caleb such a fierce fighter? Why did he wholly and fully follow the Lord? Because it was an issue of the heart. If you ever get something in your heart, you won't have to be begged to do what the Lord wants you to do. You won't have to, somebody always pleading with you to do the right thing, do what God wants you to do. If you ever get the Lord deep down in your heart, I mean, it's just an automatic thing. Okay, so he says, this is what I told him. It was in my heart, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. But those other guys, verse 8, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. Here's one thing I've learned about the Hebrew language, especially more than any other language, is it loves to key upon words. So it likes to say a word and then it says a word again. So what was in my heart, it made the people's heart melt. Heart. So whereas Caleb was confident in his heart, those other spies melted the confidence of the people's hearts by talking about giants and walled cities, and we look like grasshoppers. You remember all that? And it melted the heart of the people. You know, when you're in a leadership position, whether it be political, whether it be in your work environment, you really, you can really influence people. You can melt their hearts. or you can strengthen their hearts. Caleb was one of those guys that his energy and ambition was attractive. It just affected everybody around. And so Caleb had strong fortitude and confidence that the Lord was going to do what he said. He says, but my brothers, they melted the heart of the people. But what does he say? I followed the Lord. How did he follow the Lord? Wholly. Completely. 100%. So Moses swore that day. I know, Vicki, I don't know where I'm at either. Oh, yeah, I am. I'm still at slide 10, verse 9. So the Lord swore to me that day, 45 years ago, that I was going to get a reward for my faithfulness. Surely the land where your foot has trodden shall be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord my God. Next slide. So, verse 10. The Lord has kept me alive. I like the way Caleb talks. The Lord has kept me alive. That's the only reason you're breathing tonight, by the way, is because the Lord has kept you alive. We can wake up every day and say, thank you, Lord, for this day. Because the Lord, and you know what? Caleb, I would imagine, had been in some very dangerous situations. They didn't fight battles as we do today with computers. They fought hand to hand in close proximity with swords and spears and hand to hand. And I can imagine Caleb could have given us detailed moments where the Lord truly kept him alive in a moment when he should have died. The Lord has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years. Ever since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now here I am this day, 85 years old. Now I want you to stop for a moment and listen to Caleb's thinking. So, 45 years ago, the Lord promised and said, I'm going to give you this land. So what does Caleb have to do to be able to get this land 45 years later? Well, I'm going to make it real simple. He's got to be alive. Yeah. So Caleb's saying, God promised me 45 years ago that I was going to get this land. It's 45 years later, and I'm here. The Lord has kept me alive just as he said he would. And since we're divvying out land, see, that's where we are. We're dividing up land right now. It's my turn. The Lord promised me something, and I want it. It is not wrong, my friends, to assume on God's promises. It is not wrong to expect God to fulfill his promises. As Paul would write, I know in whom I have believed and am persuaded that he is able to keep. I lost it. Help me, Glenn. What I have committed unto him against that day. What does that mean? God's going to fulfill his promises, every one to me. And this is what Caleb is talking about. Caleb is saying, I know when God promised me something, I'm going to get it. And he says, I'm 85 years old. He's on crutches and wearing support hose. Is that what he says in verse 11? He is still as strong as an ox. He says, I'm still, yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me 45 years ago. I hope at age 85, if the Lord doesn't come back, that I can say that. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Whew. That's impressive. That is just impressive for Caleb to make that kind of comment. I have the New English translation that down there for you. It says, today I am as strong as when Moses sent me out. I can fight and go about my daily activities with the same energy I had then. Caleb wasn't bragging on himself. He was praising the Lord. He was praising the Lord for keeping him alive and keeping his strength as he did. Now look at verse 12. What did Caleb ask for? Now, Lord, here's what I want. I want a beachfront mansion, swimming pool that overlooks the ocean. And I don't want to ever have to work another day in my life. Is that what he asked for? Listen what he says. Now, therefore, verse 12, give me this mountain. We'll find out about that mountain, of which the Lord spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and fortified. I'll stop there. Mansion, beachfront, swimming pool looking over the ocean. Caleb asked for a battlefield. He asked for a battle. Who knows what the Anakim are? That's exactly what they mean. You've been looking that up. Anakim in Hebrew means long of neck. They were tall. How tall is tall? You know, we'll get in that in a minute. I'm not going to break my concentration at this one. But the Anakim were rough people. I'm talking about the best of the best, and they were big people. I don't know if a giant was 7 foot tall or 9'6", or how long was King Og's bed? Like 13 foot long. It's over somewhere. I looked that too. It's in Numbers. He was one of the descendants of the giants. I don't know how big these people were, but they were the same people that the Israelites would not go into land because of. They were the giants whom the other spies says they were giants, and we look like grasshoppers in their sight, and that's what they thought of us too. And Caleb says, I'm 85 years old, but I'm still strong. It's time for me to receive my inheritance. I want that mountain where the Anakim live. And then what does he say? And it may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out as the Lord said. Now, I've got that in the New English translation as well, because this is a tricky little phrase in the original. No matter how you put it out, it almost seems as if Caleb is questioning or doubting that the Lord may or may not be with him. But that's not what it means in the original. The best I saw was this, when the New English Translation says, but assuming the Lord is with me, I will conquer them. So the only, how do I even say it? The only doubt that is in that equation, let me just say it this way. If Caleb goes in there alone, they're going to squash him like a grasshopper. But if the Lord is with him, then I will conquer them. This is what Caleb said. Caleb says, in myself, I have absolutely no confidence. But in myself, with the Lord with me, I will win. So the only doubt in this equation is, if the Lord's not with me, I lose. But with the Lord with me, I win. And Caleb is not doubting the Lord's presence. He's actually saying, the Lord will be with me and I will win. But I want you to know that it's important that the Lord is with me, because without him I lose. That's the best way I can explain that verse. A really tricky phrase in the Hebrew, but that's what that means. Caleb was more confident in the Lord than he ever was in himself. Sometimes people kind of get turned off by the Calebs of the world because they're so confident. The Apostle Paul was like this. The Apostle Paul was very confident, and sometimes people read that confidence as arrogance. Well, there is arrogance, but when you are so confident in the Lord that you're so sure that with him you can climb mountains and conquer giants, don't read that as arrogance. Read that as confidence in the Lord. All right, let's read a little bit about this. We talked about the, you're with me, good. The land was still inhabited by the Canaanites. The Canaanites were Anakims. Here's the verse of scripture from New Living Translation, Numbers 13:33. He says, we even saw giants there, the descendant of Anak. That's where Anakim comes from. Anak was a real person. Anakim, for all of you who want a little Hebrew, I am is the plural of Hebrew. Like you have a cherub, now add I am to it. Cherubim. Cherubim is many cherubs. Anakims is many Anaks, descendants of. So these were descendants of Anak. And he says, next to them we felt like grasshoppers, and that's what they thought of us too. Caleb says, I wasn't afraid of them then, and I'm not afraid of them now. Just give me that land and get out of my way and give me just a little while and I'll have it done. I like those kind of people. All right. Man, this takes a whole lesson right here. There are 3 words in the Hebrew that talks about giants. Nephilims, Rephaims, and Anakims. All big people. So there's all kinds of talk and words and thoughts about, were there really giants in the land? Some of them we get actually measurements of. We get measurements of Goliath. He was 9'6". We have measurements of King Og's bed, and it was like 13 foot long. Interesting, I was doing just that much reading. I kind of get a little bit ADHD when I study the Bible sometimes, and I go off on these. And so I went off on a little bit of a tangent on the giants. In Babylonian writing, in Assyrian writing, in Egyptian writing, there is writing about the giants who lived in the land. Now, we don't need Babylonian, Egyptian, and Assyrian writing to tell us that what the Bible tells us is true. But if you're going to make fun of the Bible because it mentions giants, then make fun of the Egyptian writings and the Babylonian writings and the Assyrian writings. But when we find those, we all say, oh, wonderful, great, we found true history. But if it's in the Bible, oh, that's just a bunch of fairy tales. Let's be consistent here. There were giants in the land. How tall were they? Some of them were 9'6". Some of them had 13-foot beds. They were real. And they did exist. And I don't know about you, but when I played basketball, I'm about 6'2". On a good day, maybe 6'3". And I played against guys who were 6'10". And I will tell you this, they were giants. So I don't know if it's 6'2" versus 6'10". I have seen Connor Vanover live and in person. They say he's 7'3". He looks like he's 14'12". I don't know if Goliath was just a super exception and he was 9'6", or what exactly. But nonetheless, there were giants in the land. And I watched a show about the real Jesus, you know. And we have these Sunday school versions of Jesus. He has this beautiful beard, blue eyes, waving hair. He probably had kinky hair and he was dark-skinned. And he was probably about 5'4", because that was about the average height of people in his time, men. So if you're 5'4", going up against somebody who is 9'6", go for the knees. I don't know. Furthermore, these were the most experienced soldiers of the time. Later, some of the tribes will complain and they say they have chariots of iron. What does that even mean? It's talking about their armory. It's not so much that the chariots were made of iron, but it means that their riders and their horses had iron mail on. They had iron suits of some sort, maybe helmets, and meaning they were very fierce and well-equipped soldiers. Caleb says, give me the land, get out of my way, and I will take care of it. And he does, because God is with him. Well, we might wonder why in the world Caleb would take on such a challenge at 85 years old. But here's what Caleb said. Caleb said, every day I wake up, I'm going to fully follow the Lord. Take a peek. All right, I'm doing okay. Verse 13. Let's go to slide 15. So Caleb received his land inheritance. Joshua blessed him, and he gave him Hebron. Hebron became a very important city in the northern regions of Judah. I took a moment when I read and Joshua blessed Caleb. These guys were the same age. They were brothers in arms. Two men who had, Joshua was also of this tribe, but we're just focusing on Caleb tonight. And these two guys had spent 45 years walking side by side, fighting side by side. And some of you who have served in the military with fellow soldiers, you know the kind of tightness that creates. Well, Joshua and Caleb were not only tied by being soldiers together, but they were soldiers in the Lord's army. And there is no stronger friendship than that. Slide 16. So he receives his land. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, and because he wholly followed the Lord his God. The name of Hebron was formerly Kirjath Arba. Arba was the greatest man amongst the Anakim. So not only did he get land filled with Anakim, but he got the part that the greatest Anakim owned. He was probably not alive at that time, but his descendants were. How did it turn out? Well, we got to turn to chapter 15, read verses 13 through 19, and we'll figure out how it turns out. Also, this particular part of Joshua is repeated at the beginning of the book of Judges. So this is a pretty important part. So we start reading at verse 13. Now to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a share among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, namely Kirjath Arba, which is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. Caleb drove out the three sons of Anak from there, and I'm not very good at those names, so you see the names. The children of Anak. Then he went up from there to the inhabitants of Debir, formerly the name of Debir, with Kirjath Sepher. Kirjath actually just means city of. So like Kirjath Arba, city of Arba, Kirjath Sepher, the city of Sepher. And Caleb said, he who attacks Kirjath Sepher and takes it to him, I will give Aksah, my daughter, as wife. So Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, so this is his nephew, Othniel is Caleb's nephew, took it, and he gave him Aksah, his daughter, as wife. Former nephew, now son-in-law. Now it was so when she came to him that she persuaded him to ask her, Othniel, to ask her father for a field. And so she dismounted from her donkey, and Caleb said to her, "What do you wish?" And she answered, "Give me a blessing, since you have given me land in the south. Give me also springs of water." And so he gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. And this was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah according to their families. I read all that simply to say, Caleb did exactly what he said he would do. And obviously God drove those inhabitants out of the land. And just what happens at the end of Joshua? Judges. And so this is introducing the book of Judges. But one area that was always well controlled, even in the time of the book of Judges, was Judah. If you flip over, and we won't do that, but chapter 1 of the book of Judges, there was always this problem with Jerusalem. Y'all ever heard of that city? The Jebusites owned that city at this time. And it was Judah who went in. Actually, Jerusalem is in the, it's really hard to make this call, but pretty sure that Jerusalem is in the tribal land allotment of Benjamin. I mean, it's right on the border, right on the border. And the tribe of Judah go in, and they drive out the Jebusites, which opened the way for Jerusalem to be a conquered city. It wasn't done quite yet by the end of Judges, but it is shortly after King David becomes king. But anyway, that's way ahead. All right, let's close. Caleb was a fierce fighter, no doubt about that. But Caleb's greatest characteristic was his unwavering confidence and faith in the Lord. He believed God when most everyone else did not. I'm going to repeat that. He believed God when most everyone else did not. If you're the only person in the room that believes God, believe God. You don't have to be in a crowd of Christians to be Christian. Be different. Caleb had a different spirit, and we have to be different, especially in this world. No matter how much physical prowess or human skill we might possess, without faith in God and being faithful to God, we fail. But with great skill and great faith, God's people can do amazing things. We are never too old to take on new challenges. Caleb was 85 years old, and he said, "Give me a mountain full of giants, and get out of my way, and I will get it done." And he did just that. Like Caleb, we should always be looking for what we can do next in the service of the Lord. Capture a mountain or slay a giant, but we never quit. Never quit. I didn't, but we're going to get this in the conclusion. Othniel, go over to read Judges chapter 3, okay? He's the first judge. Othniel seems to be cut from the same cookie cutter as he who cut Caleb. I think Othniel learned a whole lot from his father-in-law, Caleb. And he became a fierce fighter as well, and he was solely dedicated to the Lord. He is one of few good judges. And he was a good one. That's in Judges chapter 3. So we need to set the right example, and furthermore, rise up a new generation that can take on the battle as Caleb issued to Othniel, who took on the battle. So we need to rise up another generation that will take our place in this battle for Christ that we live in. All right, comments or questions? Say it again. She cheated. You looked it up on your phone. You know what? I shouldn't be so judgmental because I did the very same thing. Google knows everything, even Bible questions. He is of the tribe of Ephraim. Any others? Comments? Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate you. Stay healthy. Be careful. It's hard to do right now. Thank the Lord for every day. And thank the Lord for every day that you're not sick. Pray for those who are. We need to pray for all those who are. We got Miss Wanda Farmer. I'm saying all this online. I'm sorry. Let me say goodbye to our online audience, and then we'll get some announcements and prayer requests. So thanks for all who tuned in tonight. God bless you, and love to hear from you. I thank you and appreciate you, and I hope that you all are healthy as well. And until I see you again, God bless.